All right, everybody, welcome. Episode 9, The Paradox of Sports. We're here with Jack. It's been another week without sports, kinda. We're getting by with what we got. So what'd you watch sports-wise this last week, Jack?
Well, I did watch some racing.
Okay, let's start with that. So what races did you watch?
I watched, I believe that, I forgot what it was called. I watched the Bristol.
Okay, so you watched the short track race at Bristol. Okay, so how much of it did you watch?
About half of it.
Okay, so tell me about it. Tell me kind of your viewing experience as you sat down and watched it, what you recall. How was the viewing experience?
There were way more crashes on that track because it's a small track and the turns are they aren't exactly sharp, but there are many turns in such a small amount of time.
Gotcha. So Bristol is a half-mile short track, and it's banked real high. So if racing gets back started and you can go to the track there in Pueblo, it's also a pretty high banked. I believe it's a third mile. I don't even think it's a half. So they really get around that guy fast. So did you enjoy the short track style? Like where the cars were closer together, the beating, the banging, the wrecking? Like, was that something you enjoyed watching more?
Mm-hmm. It was way more controversial than some other races I've seen.
Okay, so what was your take on? You're talking the last couple of laps with Chase Elliott and Joey Logano.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your take on it? Like, what did you see? What do you think happened?
Well, I saw that. So I think it was either Logano or Elliott. They smashed it. They rubbed into the other on the edge of the track, on the track boarding, and then it all went haywire, and then eventually Brad Keselowski won.
Now, what I think, and this is just kind of setting it up where I follow the storyline a little more, Chase Elliott's been wrecked a couple times at the Cup level. Kyle wrecked him a couple weeks ago leading at Darlington, even leading back to last year, the year before. He's been leading some races. Denny Hamlin's put him in the wall. Yeah. I think Chase just said enough of it, and he drove in there knowing it wasn't going to stick, and he put Joey up in the wall just because I'm going to assume with you and your brother, is your patience running a little thin on some things? Maybe are you and Vaughn a little quicker to maybe want to push and shove now than you were a year ago?
Probably. Right. During these times, you become way less patient, and you eventually start doing way more things in a short amount of time.
Gotcha. So you're even seeing that at the professional athlete level, where they're fed up and they're ready to fight. In the case of those guys, they were just doing it with 3,500-pound stock cars.
Yep.
Gotcha. So from the baseball standpoint, are you following anything from Major League Baseball on kind of what's going on there?
Not really Major League Baseball, but I've been watching Korean baseball. I've watched pretty much every game.
Okay, I have not. So I haven't been watching that. So tell me, what are you seeing? What are your likes and dislikes from that stuff that you're seeing?
So I like the fact that they're using proper social distancing. They don't have they don't shift as much. So they can stay 6 feet apart and hopefully don't catch the coronas. But I am a little confused although the coronavirus has settled down just a titch, Korea is, it borders China where the coronavirus started. So I was expecting a lot of coronavirus cases there. And I was wondering why why they started playing baseball until like a country say it until like some Norway, like one that doesn't have too much coronavirus cases.
Got you. Someone who hasn't been as affected.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So watching the Korean games, just the actual game and the performance and like the execution of the game of baseball, what are you seeing, or do you see anything different between them and what we do at the major league level?
I see that they have a little less science, or they have a little less they're a little less advanced, as you may call it. And while the MLB, it has a lot of power hitters, say Mike Trout, some others. Korean, they don't have too many power hitters. They're one of the countries that recommend hitting for contact, while the USA is powerful.
So you would go as far as to say like there's more finesse in their game.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I like that. Like I guess I shouldn't say it. I like all forms of baseball. I was a little older than you back in the Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa dinger days where, I mean, those guys were so obviously roided up. It was fun to watch though. I believe it was actually your dad and I went to Coors Field for a Cardinals game, and we watched Mark McGwire take batting practice, and it was ludicrous first of all, how big he was and how far he hit the ball. Like it was crazy to actually sit and watch that. So you've been doing a little Korean baseball. You've watched a little NASCAR. I assume you're still very much in the trenches with the wrestling.
Yes.
Gotcha. So catch me up a little bit. I've been gone, so I haven't been around my TV as much last week. So catch me up a little bit. I know we have a big match coming Wednesday night with Colt Cabana, but what has happened the last week kind of in the wrestling world?
So in AEW, first of all, there has been a rivalry between Mike Tyson and Chris Jericho, Le Champion. By the way, he should drop the Le Champion gimmick. He isn't even Le Champion.
Yeah, because he's not doing it anymore.
Well, he is doing the gimmick, but he isn't. But he doesn't have a championship. He doesn't hold a championship.
Gotcha.
So he should drop that gimmick.
Okay.
And on the WWE side of things, Raw major events there. So we saw Rey Mysterio's official retirement ceremony.
Ooh, you think you think he's done? Or do you think it's like the Undertaker's retirement ceremonies?
It's probably he's probably gonna make like a return at the Royal Rumble, but I think that's about it for him. And he decided to retire when Seth Rollins jammed his eye into the corner of the steel steps. Yeah, he didn't lose an eye, but
Gotcha. So he might be going out kind of on the injured deal there.
yeah. And then on the SmackDown side, Jeff Hardy, he got arrested for hitting Elias with his car. And so they had a battle royal where the winner would face Daniel Bryan later that night. And then the winner of that match would face AJ Styles the next week for the vacant Intercontinental Championship. By the way, the reason it's vacant is because Sami Zayn, the former Intercontinental Champion, hasn't been participating in that many matches. So they decided to vacate it, and then they had a tournament for it and stuff. So in that 10-man battle royal, Sheamus eliminated Jey Uso to become to win it, and then I believe that Daniel Bryan beat Sheamus later that night, so it's gonna be either tonight, if today's or wait, my math is all wrong. I thought it was Friday.
No, we're Monday. It's Monday, buddy.
Okay. So on Friday, we're going to see AJ Styles face Daniel Bryan for the Intercontinental Championship. And then finally, we go to NXT, where there was a MMA cage match between Matt Riddle and Timothy Thatcher with Kurt Angle as a special guest ref.
Okay, so when they're doing, what do you mean by they're doing an MMA cage match? So it's like if I was going to watch Chuck Liddell fight, like they're fighting MMA style?
Yeah. It's
okay.
It's called a fight pit match because in that performance center where NXT is also performing, they have like a little pit where they put the cage and stuff. It's a bit of more extreme. It was more of an extreme MMA match. Eventually, Timothy Thatcher won by knocking out Matt Riddle with a sleeper hold.
So, of all of the brands of the wrestling that you are watching, if you were to progress, I mean, you have a lot of avenues where you can take your passion for sports. So let's say you're 10 now, let's say in 15 years that our boy Jack's 25 years old, and you get the opportunity and you could write for one of these wrestling organizations. Right now, where the stuff you're watching, which one would you pick that you would like to go in and work with their talent and kind of be in charge of writing some of the storylines?
So WWE, it's been, well, the Raw and NXT brands have risen up dramatically. NXT has risen up a lot ever since they invaded Raw and SmackDown and eventually became a Survivor Series team. And then AEW, they have been seriously on the rise. But overall, I would think that I would go probably right for AEW over WWE. Although WWE has a tiny bit more action-packed. AEW has been a bit. Or wait, strike that reverse. AEW was the more action-packed one, while Raw is just. While WWE, all brands, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, they've been more of a normal fighting team. So I'd probably write for AEW because they have more action-packed.
Got you. So what you're seeing, though, like with the WWE, is they're more along the lines of being more like politically correct, more commercial, and the AEW is getting back to being a little more raw is not the right word because that's the other brand, but it's a little more raw and a little more hardcore, and it's the kind of wrestling that is appealing to you.
Yeah. Because I'm normally like a high-flying, grappling fighter, but when it comes to hardcore, I'm all in. So, AEW's just hardcore, the definition of hardcore, and I definitely write for them.
Got you. So that's the style you'd like to do, kind of the new age, the hardcore stories, the get with it stuff.
Yep.
Okay. And so it's 1st of June. We're getting a little closer. We have our interview coming up with Katy. She talked a little bit about the NBA getting back, so folks will have the chance to kind of hear what she says about what they have set up. The NHL has given their plans from your standpoint and your generation, where I don't know if you realize how much of a change NASCAR is doing from what is their typical schedule, but they're getting away from tradition a lot. And I think the NHL is going to go to that kind of that tournament style they're doing. So as a young fan, does the old way of doing stuff, the traditional way, is that something that's important to you, or are you okay with stuff being, let's just get back to playing sports and do with the time we have to get our champion? Are you okay with that?
So I think so. We definitely need sports back of all other things. But with what's going on right now, I believe that people are fine with it. They're finding other things to do. So we're fine without sports, but when the time comes, we'll be in desperate need for some action.
Got you. So you're ready. So when the NHL comes back, whenever it is at the end of June, if they have that kind of round robin big style tournament, you're okay with that. You just want them to set some rules, let's play, and let's crown a champion.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm the same way. There are some traditionalists that are not happy with the way we're trying to do it, but I'm with you, man. Let's get people back. Let's get people playing, and let's get some entertainment going.
I agree.
Okay. Well, we on that note, I thought we had a pretty good interview with tonight's guest. She was informative and very honest and forthright with what she knows kind of about what's going on, and then kind of her path, even getting back to when she was your age and what she did to get to her path now. So I think we're ready to do tonight's interview. So if you want, go ahead and introduce the people to our guest tonight.
Okay. Introducing Altitude TV analyst / sideline reporter, former Illinois State women's basketball star, introducing Katy Winge.
Thanks for having me on. I'm honored.
Well, it is our pleasure. And as we do here, when we start every interview, we go ahead and get things kicked off with our boy Jack.
Okay. Talk about your start in sports broadcasting.
How I got my start?
Uh-huh.
So I grew up playing basketball. I started playing organized basketball in 3rd grade and kind of instantly fell in love with it and learned the power of sports and the way that it can bring people together through playing. And I learned pretty early on that if I worked really hard, I could be good. And so as I got better and improved my game, I started setting new goals. I wanted to eventually make the varsity team in high school. And then once I did that, I wanted to eventually get a scholarship to play in college. And once I did that and I got there, I was like, you know what, I think I want to stay in sports for my career. So I found a way to tell the stories of some of the athletes that I was playing alongside or playing with in college at Illinois State. And because I played at such a high level and have such a vast knowledge of the game of basketball was a sport that I chose to cover, and had a bunch of internships, worked on my undergrad in broadcast journalism. So I worked for our TV station at Illinois State called TV10 and got a ton of experience there. Did a couple internships at a couple local TV stations and then a regional sports network, and had my first job in local TV kind of right out of school. Worked there for about 8 months, ended up going to get my master's in sports journalism at Northwestern in Chicago for a year, did that, got my second degree, and then got a job with the Denver Nuggets.
Okay. So, based on your basketball abilities, you're able to play D1 basketball at Illinois State. What other offers did you receive?
Well, actually, it's an interesting story because I tore my ACL, so pretty serious injury, my last home game of my junior year of high school. And my junior summer going into my senior year is the heaviest recruiting year. So prior to hurting my knee and having to have pretty serious surgery, I was really hoping to go somewhere in the Big Ten. I loved Madison in Wisconsin, really wanted to be a Badger, but unfortunately that just didn't work out. I had been talking to them, talking to Iowa a little bit. And then when I hurt my knee, a lot of those schools said, never mind, we're going to go with somebody who we know is healthier. And so that was really hard for me. That was something that I had to battle through both mentally and physically. And once that happened, I was really fortunate that I had an offer from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. At the time, one of their assistant coaches was there when they offered me. She transferred over to Illinois State, and she liked me enough to say, hey, I like this girl. Let's offer her a scholarship to Illinois State. So Illinois State is where I ended up playing. I also had interest from Creighton in Nebraska, Omaha, and I really liked that school a lot too, but ultimately decided to be a Redbird.
Now, as a father of 3 daughters, I got a 20-year-old and the youngest is a 14-year-old. That injury, between what you had to have been looking forward to for your life right there, going into a young lady's senior year of high school and then getting hurt, the physical part of getting back healthy had to have been tough. But what about, I'm guessing there's a mental hurdle there that you could have chosen not to have gotten over. So what was it like getting over that to get healthy?
Well, you're spot on. I honestly can sit here and tell you that I had gone through so much physically in terms of training and preparing to get to that point that the physical part of it wasn't so hard. I knew I had to go to physical therapy. I knew that I had to take baby steps to get back to where I wanted to be. But mentally, I started, having those doubts and those questions of like, will I ever be the player that I was prior to this? And obviously you have to abide by the very strict guidelines of the physical therapist and the doctors that are saying, okay, you can't walk yet. You're still on crutches. Okay, let's take away the crutches. Now you can walk. You can't jump. Okay, now we'll let you jump up and down. We'll let you run in a straight line, but you cannot run diagonally. You can't pivot. You can't cut. And then they finally, piece by piece allow you to do those things. And in the meantime, you're doing anything basketball related that you can, whether it's form shooting with no jumping. And even then, I think my parents were like so terrified that I was going to do something more than what I was allowed to do because I wanted to get back so badly. And anytime you have those doubts in your mind of just like, will I be that player again? And basketball was such a huge part of my identity at that point, and a lot of it still is, that it was like, who am I without this game? And now being so far on the other side of it, I know it made me so much stronger, and it helped me figure out what life was like without basketball and who I am without basketball. It kind of helped me find my identity in a different way too. I can't say enough about the support of my family and my friends through that time. They were my rock, and in so many ways, without them, I don't know if I would have been able to stay as stable as I did mentally. But that part of that rehabilitation was more difficult in my eyes than the physical part was.
All right. Along with playing D1 college basketball, you also had several internships at various TV stations, not to mention your own college productions. How did you juggle all of these responsibilities?
Well, it was tough. A lot of time management, a lot of prioritizing, and making sure that I made time for the things that I knew would benefit me personally and me professionally. I had to give up some social things that I maybe would have rather done, but I knew that, going and spending a couple more hours at the TV station would benefit me in the long run rather than going to a movie with my friends. So you have to balance and pick and choose in different situations. But for me, I loved what I was doing so much that it never really felt like work. And that's still true to this day. I was so motivated to get to where I am today, and so motivated to tell these stories and bring people and communities together, that was my driving force behind it. That's what I was passionate about. And so since I cared about it so much, it was easy for me to make those decisions.
When did you start going from kind of the broadcast stuff for fun? Just reading some stuff on you on today, you started when you were real young. when did it kind of go from playing around with it to actually wanting to learn the art of doing an interview and building relationships with athletes and staff and such? Like, when did you take that step?
So it's interesting because kind of the fun stuff you mentioned, we had a news station in my elementary school that was called KRTS News, where kids run the station. And I was like so determined to be the sports anchor of that show for a week. And I did that. And I didn't even really think about that when I ended up one of my majors being broadcast journalism. And now looking back on it, I'm like, was this kind of what I always had paved for myself and I didn't even realize? But it was once I was at Illinois State and I started connecting with athletes that were playing every sport and learning about their backgrounds and where they come from, what they went through to get to this point. And then as I kept getting better and the spotlight kept shining brighter on me, I had more people doing stories on me. And so I would pay very close attention to the questions that they were asking me and what was getting the best answers out of me, or how they were essentially making me tell them my story. And because I had heard all of the athletes and that sort of thing, it was like, I could totally do this. Like I relate to people in this way. I connect to people in this way. And I know so many of them. Let me be the one to tell the stories.
Now, along the same lines as your career is moving along in basketball, what grade, what age, when you get to, when you're playing Division I college basketball, you have to not just be a great athlete, you have to know the game of basketball. When did you really start to learn and understand that side of it, the game of basketball? When did you really start soaking it up, and maybe not your physical talents being everything you leaned on, but knowing the game?
Well, I think that I had a grasp for the game on a different level at a very young age. From even like the first couple leagues get in, I was just so for saying the different drills, how they were making us better. I would ask a million questions. I was always that player that was like, well, why are we doing this? Or like, when would we do this? What's the situation for this? And there were a bunch of other girls who it was really just fun for them. And they were like hanging out, socializing with their friends. And that's totally fine. But I recognized at a very young age that it meant more to me. And so I think, in all honesty, getting injured the way that I did, I had to watch and learn the game from the sidelines, and I was forced to, but I was so desperate to still be involved in any way, shape, or form that I could, that I was paying even closer attention to coaches on the sideline, how they were interacting with players, how they were reading defenses, how they were, game planning, and the game notes, what went into those, what went into scouting, what went into watching film. And all of those ways were different opportunities for me to contribute in situations that I wasn't like physically going through drills and getting shots up and doing things like that. So watching the game from a breakdown standpoint, once I couldn't play because of my knee injury, I think that was probably my first real dive into developing my knowledge of the game on a different level. And from there, it just kind of took off. The amount of studying that you have to do at the Division I level in terms of watching film, we're constantly watching film, constantly going through scouting reports. Here's the why when as to what's going on the floor and how do you counter this move and counter this defense and that type of thing. So I think high school was where I maybe opened that playbook. But once you play at the Division I level, it's just kind of natural. You learn it in that way if you want to be a student of the game.
Okay. Last question before we talk Nuggets. Being in the Chicago market before making the move to Denver, were you a big Bulls fan?
No, I was not. I love Michael Jordan and I love watching The Last Dance. I'm very sad that it's over. And I think that Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. And even watching that documentary, I think that talk about a high basketball IQ, talk about a completely different level of an approach to the game. I learned so much through watching that. So I'm a fan of Michael Jordan. I'm actually from Minnesota originally. So I grew up a Timberwolves fan. when Kevin Garnett was there and Latrell Sprewell and Sam Cassell. And so I grew up watching them, but I abandoned them the moment that I came to Denver. I was a bandwagon fan for sure, and I fell in love with this Nuggets team that I get to cover.
Now, before we move to Nuggets, I got one more from the Minnesota girl standpoint.
Okay.
Where I'm at in Northeast Wyoming, we have a lot of Minnesota folks that are here in the town that I'm in. So how is Katy Winge not a hockey player?
I get that question all the time. Everybody's like, wait, you're from Minnesota? Why didn't you play hockey? Well, to start, I'm 5'10". So I think being very tall at a young age, I was like instantly pushed into basketball. And I fell in love with basketball, and unfortunately basketball and hockey run in the same seasons in Minnesota. And I had an opportunity to play basketball first. So that's kind of how that played out. One of my best friends in high school, her name's Rachel Ramsey, and she is a little bit taller than me even. And when she was in high school with me, our girls hockey team won the state championship 3 times. She went on to play at the University of Minnesota, and they won, a national title a couple times. And her dad is Mike Ramsey from the movie Miracle. He was on the Miracle team. And so hockey just runs in their blood. But we would always battle back and forth between like, okay, we're 2 tall girls. Who's better at their sport, the basketball or the hockey?
Okay. Let's start talking about Nuggets. With the coronavirus pandemic occurring, do you have any news on when the Nuggets will open?
Well, whose jersey are you wearing? Can I ask you that first?
Yeah, Nikola Jokic.
Nice. That's a great choice. He's phenomenal. Very fun player to watch. I love being able to cover him and watch him on a nightly basis. I hope we get back to that very soon. So the latest update has kind of been, they're working on it and they're getting really close. They've had conversations with the Players Association and some very high up professionals within the NBA. And they, I think, are probably going to end up conducting all the rest of the games, whether it be regular season. It looks like it's probably just going to be playoffs, but in Disney World. So at ESPN's Wide World of Sports, there are a bunch of courts. I actually played at them when I was playing AAU back in the day. And it might actually be a summer league style basketball tournament-ish situation. So they'll have a bunch of games going on at the same time to try and either catch up from the regular season, and then they'll work into the playoffs. Or there's even been conversations right now of a top 16 team bracket style tournament. So they basically seed the East and the West 1 through 16, and regardless of what, division conference you're in, that's the way they're going to battle it out. So that would be really interesting. I think that's a pretty new development on the NBA side, especially from a playoff perspective. And it would be cool to see them try something new, given the situation has been full of new experiences, and this is all going to be new for all of us. So if they do a, top 8 from the West, top 8 from the East, it would be cool to see them just do a 1 through 16 playoff right away.
Okay, from that answer, you triggered me on two questions here.
Okay.
First off, I don't know if most people realize you were mentioning the Players Association, the owners. Yep. You have the contracts with the television partners like Altitude, and then you have the TNT and the ESPN and everything. Like, there are so many parties involved in this that it's not, and it's money. It's all the money that's on the line. Yeah. So this isn't something that 6 guys can get in a room and hammer this out in 2 hours.
Well, and that's why it's taken so long, right? Like, for a while it was like, okay, let's talk to the health professionals and see what they're saying. Let's see if we can get enough tests. Okay, have enough tests. Players feel they want to play. Let's talk to them about this. Okay, do the GMs want to play? Do the owners want to play? And then you take it one step further, and what do you do contractually? If there was a CBA, are they talking about that? Are they needing to readjust some things from a salary perspective? And I think the bottom line is everybody wants to play because there is money to be made. But even from a broadcasting standpoint, it's like, who's going to cover these games? How are they going to divvy that up? Is it going to be the same as it would have been in May or June, and they're just going to run it back that way? Or will they do a completely new negotiation and see what happens there? So I think we're learning very quickly how deep the NBA is, and that even runs through who will be in Disney World as well. Like, I think each team is only going to be allowed a certain number of people to travel with them in order to just contain and lower the risk of getting that virus. And so, like, TV people, I don't think we'll be seeing play-by-play or analysts in the building. It'll be completely done from studio, which will be a very new development, a very new change. I don't know if reporters will be let in at all. I don't know if they'll just have one trainer or what that will look like. So there's still a lot of details that need to be worked out. But the important thing is there's some progress being made.
Well, I do. I'm NASCAR first, and I can tell you that they do a lot of their lower tier races. The
Nice.
guys are actually at the studios in Charlotte and calling the races. And up until they told people a couple weeks ago, fans didn't even know on TV that those guys
they've
weren't
done
there.
that.
So it can be done. So my
They've
second
done it
question.
with the Olympics.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't know that.
A lot of the Olympics, like, they won't travel all of the talent. They'll just do it from Connecticut, I think is where they do it from, NBC, their studios. And so, yeah, that part of it I don't think is new, but it will be new to the local teams like the Scott Hastings and the Chris Marlows, who have never called an NBA game from Denver, essentially away, like in the studio, not on courtside.
You mentioned too about the new way of doing stuff. I was just reading before we jumped on with you about the way the hockey is doing it, the stuff that and I love it. Like if you're going to do stuff different, now is the time to do it. I know the purists are going to get on the Reddit and they're going to complain, but no matter what they do, is there stuff you're excited to see the NBA try now?
Absolutely. Even from the beginning of this, I was totally in favor of scratch the rest of the regular season. Let's just do the best 16 teams, however many maybe even 18 teams for those who are maybe on the bubble. And let's just play it out. Let's do best of 5, not best of set, like best of 5 for the first 2 rounds, then best of 7 for, the last 2 rounds or the final round or whatever you want to do. Now is the time to try new things and see how they work. I think we're already going to be in a period too, because the season has been pushed back so far, that next year's season is going to be okay, what does the NBA season look like if we start on Christmas Day? Is that something that we want to do moving forward, or are we going to try and cram everything in and get back to normal, if you will? So there are a lot of possibilities and opportunities here, and the NBA has been one of the most progressive leagues in that way. I'm actually thrilled that hockey was the first to kind of make a decision here in terms of what they're going to do moving forward here. And I think that the NBA will probably follow in a similar fashion.
Nice. Okay, Jack, it's all yours.
Okay. The Nuggets were so great before the NBA was pushed back. Do you have a belief that if the 16-team tournament format occurs, do you believe that the Nuggets even have a chance of winning the whole thing?
Well, I think that it's anybody's game, right, Jack? These are unforeseen circumstances in terms of, like, everybody's playing field is even at this point. It's been really fun for me. I've gotten to catch up with a couple of the players recently, and I've asked them actually this question, like, do you guys believe that you have a real chance? And where do you have an advantage coming back into play this late? And the main answer that all the guys have given is, like, we've been together for so long. We have such a continuity about us that I don't think we're going to miss a beat. Obviously, you're fighting some guys maybe being out of shape, but there'll be a training camp that's probably at least 2 weeks long to get them back into shape, get them back familiar with the playbook and running plays and what works and what doesn't against different defenses and that sort of thing. But it's anybody's ball game, I think. And given these circumstances, the Nuggets definitely have a chance.
Okay, this will be the last one for me. You had spoke on it a little earlier on the building relationships that you really started in college when you were talking with all of the other athletes that you had. And then as you've moved into the NBA, what did you take that you learned from those college days into the NBA with you, and then even somebody like the Jack who's 10 years old and wanting to do this, what's an important lesson or something to keep in mind as you build a relationship with the folks that you're covering?
Well, I have two main ones. One is that, especially in a TV broadcast, every single person is equally important to making that broadcast work. So even though I'm the one that's on camera and I'm the face that a lot of people see, the person who's behind the camera running it makes me look good. The people who are running my graphics, they make, they enhance my broadcast. They enhance what I'm saying by showing the numbers and the statistics to back me up. My producer helps me plan all of that. And not a lot of people see those people that are behind the scenes. So I always try and give them as much credit as I can whenever possible. I say thank you after every single broadcast, because what I do would not be possible without those people. And the average person and the public don't know that. So making sure that you're grateful and appreciative for every single person's role. It's very similar to an NBA team, right? Everybody has a role. Everybody has something that they bring to the table. And in order for that team to be the best that it can be, everybody's got to do their job to the best of their ability. And everybody's got to appreciate what each guy does. And so I think that that's so important from a broadcasting team standpoint. And you'll find that the people who are really successful in similar jobs to mine are so gracious and appreciative of the people who have helped them get to where they are. The second one, I forgot it. It'll come back to me.
That's okay. Jack, we got time.
Yeah.
We got time for one more, Jack. What do you got?
Okay. So other than sports broadcasting, what do you do in your free time?
Well, I absolutely love living in Denver. Being from Minnesota, I grew up a lakes girl. But I hit the mountains as soon as I moved here. So taking in the beauty of Colorado is one of my favorite pastimes. I love hanging out with my boyfriend and our two rescue dogs. We love taking them on walks. We live pretty close to Wash Park, so getting outside and being around there is super fun. I read lots of books. I love cooking and trying new recipes. I have a garden that's currently growing, so I love gardening as well. So I try and stay pretty well-rounded. And then just hanging out with my family and my friends too. I love being around people that bring out the light in me and are positive, happy humans. So that's one of my favorite things. Those are my favorite things to do in my spare time.
Awesome. Well, Katy, we appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with us.
Yeah.
I know it's busy time. You guys are getting ready to ramp up. It's nice. You could be out walking the dogs or doing a million things. But thanks for taking some time and chatting with us tonight.
Happy to do it. I remembered my second answer too. It's just remember that everybody's a human being. That's what it is. Because sometimes you see these NBA players and it's very easy to be struck by them. And I always state that when you treat each other as people and humans with a kind heart and good intentions first, and then it makes it more relatable. It helps you build those connections a little bit quicker because you ask about their families. It's not just, can you sign this or, anything like that. That's not what it's like with me. So building those relationships from a human perspective is super important.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
No problem. Stay safe.
Enjoy the rest of the week. Yeah, you too. Hopefully we'll be talking basketball soon.